So today I wanted to talk about I wanted to talk about the myth of father. Um, so this journey that I'm on is a journey of healing, and I call it use your weapon. And my weapon is my mouth, because I am a survivor of child abuse, which it encompassed witchcraft. And when you know about witchcraft, I guess you know what it looks like when you're in it. So when it comes to you as a child, you have no way of knowing because you're a child. And that's when I say that um, it calls you, spirit calls your name. In the good book of religion of Christianity, it says that your names are written in the good book. So it really has a lot of truth to it, a lot of pitney in it. So when it says that your name is written in the good book, it really is a parable. And that means that spirit knows your name. So, with that being said, I want to talk about the myth of father. The myth of father. So, we talked about last week what it meant to be in a myth of mother, you know, to remove yourself from the myth of your parents. And because we're talking about healing. And so, this show is about me healing. This is it. When you find out that you need healing, you do the right thing. You be knowledgeable and you do that. And so this is what this is for me. And so if you are interested in, feel free to like, share, subscribe. But this is for my own because I know that my abuse was to take something away from me. So this is to gain something. This is to give me something. So this is the myth of father, because the myth was put in front of us. I believe all of us have a myth of father. The myth of the African father cannot be. You can't look at yourself through Caucasian eyes. And this is a real fact for melanated people, because we are not the same. And the moment that we start to look at that, we can start unraveling myths, because we are not the same. So, removing yourself from Caucasian eyes, removing Caucasian ideology. So, I want you to look at the myth of father removed from Caucasian eyes, if that's possible. And as you look and as you continue to move further, you'll understand what I mean when I say you cannot look at yourself through the Caucasoid eyes as a melanated man and find your best self. I mean, so whatever that means for you, I hope that that means something to you. So, the myth of father, we talked about the myth of mother and getting rid of all the myth of mother, but the myth of father. So, we have a lot of myth of Black fathers, absentee fathers. Now, some of these are real facts, and some of these are myth. Whether they be myths that are put out in society by the oppressor, whether it be myths that are put out in society by the mother, meaning that the mother has put a myth out. Um, I'll give you a myth. I am in property management, and there is a myth in property management that there are no daddies in Section 8 housing because they are not on the application. So these are questions about myths that are being told, regardless of why they're being told. Getting rid of myths is a real fact, because then you can start dealing with real truth. So we're dealing with the myth of fathers. And let's see, we got one that says, that's why we die early, working in the wrong framework of what. Yeah. Those are facts. Because, well, you got to remember, this is a system, and this system was not put together for you. You know, Thomas Jefferson and the other forefathers, they went to an island and they put down the Declaration of Independence, and you were not considered anything but property, or I wasn't either. So you have to understand, the fabric of what we are in is a myth. That's why you cannot look to yourself and find yourself through the Caucasian eyes. So, with that being said, looking at the absentee father, because you have to look at why the African and the first man, because my nationality is not just African. I have what they call Indian, but I like to call it the first people, the first people that were on this planet. So I have both. So I have the red man and the African man in me. And most of us do. We're looking at history, but really we should be looking at heritage. Etymology is the meaning of words. And until you understand what you're saying, what you mean, you don't even really know. So the history of words means something. Knowing what you say means that you know what words mean. So going back to the absent father. So we have a lot of absentee fathers, but we have to think about it. Are they absent on their own? Because we were kidnapped. A lot of people just like to call it slavery, but we need to go back to the beginning of things. When you're looking for order, when you're looking for spirit, spirit has a order of things. So the order of things means that you must not talk about slavery until you talk about the fact that you were kidnapped. There's multiple things, but you have to talk about them in order. Even the good book says that everything is done decent and in order. So everything is done in order. They mess with time, the calendar, daylight saving time, Gregorian calendar. They mess with everything because they want to mess with order. So the first thing of logic is to understand order. I believe the Greeks had a god, Chronos, in meaning time, but time just means order. I like to give this little riddle, and a riddle means that you really might find the answer, you really might not find the answer, but I like to do this little riddle. It's called Riddle Me This. Where's the center of infinity? Nowhere. So when you can't even start time anywhere, where are you starting it? So you got to understand that this whole thing is a myth to control you, me, the construct. So the myth of the father is really the myth of the construct, because if you can take away the black father, you can take away the protection of the family. There is no protection in the family without the black man. I saw this little chick on Instagram. She said, period, there's no protection in the black family. And I probably shouldn't have did that, but there's no protection in the black family without. Now, the woman has learned skill sets. She has no choice. The oppressor's coming in on her. She got to learn something, some kind of skill set. But she can't protect the house like her mate. Every animal here, and we are considered to be animals. On the planet level, we're considered to be animals, just like on the material level. Everything here is either material or that's it, really. Spirit. So when you talk about a father, you're talking about a material. What does that look like? I had an idea of a father when I was growing up, but that idea was quickly taken away from me because I was abused. So we're not going to go back and forth with that. But you have to remember the myth of the father, the myth of the black man is not his own. It's not really his. He has to get rid of the myth of his oppressor. Once he gets rid of the oppressor's mindset, all the myths fall off. Humpty Dumpty fell off the wall, but Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. Give Humpty Dumpty back his shit. Because once you get rid of the myth of looking through yourself through the Caucasian eyes, you will get rid of the myth of all these things that are put on you. Because they're on you, not in you. So the myth of the father has a lot to do with the plan of the oppressor. So getting you out of the home, I am in property management, and I say that and I continue to say that because, you wonder why the oppressor wants your children's birth certificates and Social Security when you live on these properties that are, I guess, Section 8 housing and not student housing, Section 8 housing tax credit. Those birth certificates and Social Security numbers are far more important to them than they are to you. And you should want to know, why do they want this? Why do they want to know if I had a baby every month? These babies don't bring in income. The effects of the absent father. They're all put in the fabric of the Caucasoid, of the Caucasian lifestyle. So until you start to see yourself through melanated eyes, until you start to see yourself through the law of one, there is something called African ancestors. There's something called Mayat. There's something called gods, and we are them. We are 70% of the omniverse is melon. If you just look up right now, there's melon. The tree outside has green leaves because it has melon. These are facts. Now, when you see something that doesn't have melon, what we call that is albinoism. And that's just on the surface level. Just albinoism. If you were reading something and it looks like an albinoism, you would know what that looked like in your head. Just like the myth of the father, if I said albino, you would instantly know, you get a picture of that in your head. But somehow we don't associate that with the Caucasoid. So getting back on rational thinking. So getting back to the myth of father. So we're talking about the myth of father. And the reason why this makes sense for me to do is because I'm on a spiritual journey. So my spiritual journey, and I like to give honor where honor is due, because I had a dream that I threw myself off of a building when I got on this journey. And so I like to give honor where honor is due, because my grandmother and my grandfather, they are my luas. They ride me, in the religion of voodoo. And voodoo just means spirit. That's it. Every religion has spirit, Holy Ghost, all those spirits in Krishna. They have so many spirits. It's really beautiful. So when you understand wisdom, knowledge, and you get above all the gettings, you get understanding. So, my grandmother and my grandfather, they are my luas and they ride me, and I give honor and I give thanks to Papa Legba. I call him uncle. He calls me niece. And he's been with me so long that, because of the abuse that was in my home, it started very early for me. I may even say maybe 6 months to a year old, but it started very, very early for me. When spirit calls your name, it starts very early for you. But again, this is a system. And we all come here with gifts and talents. And really, it is a matter of spirit just really calls your name so that you can activate your gifts and talents based on your purpose here. So when we talk about the myth of father, you have to talk about what is the purpose of the Black man here. You know, you can talk about things that are relative, or you can talk about things that are relative. What is the purpose of the Black man here? So the myth of a father has a lot to do with what the mother has going on. You know, I always tell people, find people with rational thoughts and rational thinking. You know, mother and father, you can consider them to be a rhythm and a flow. Father being the rhythm, mother being the flow. A rhythm and flow, rhythm and flow, rhythm and flow. So when you have a rhythm and flow in the household, when you have a father in the household goes on a rhythm and flow, rhythm and flow. But when the household is off balance, it doesn't flow and it doesn't rhythm. And you'll be amazed at how much rhythm father has. Because father and mother has embedded their own lessons. So father has a set of lessons and mother has a set of lessons. And you must be balanced. You must get both sets of lessons. And that's where we're falling off with. And so an absent father means that you don't get the lesson that father teaches. You know, so I thought to myself, what would my father have taught me? Because I was put in front of another man as father. But that's because it was, when you tell a lie is witchcraft. And when you continue to tell a lie, you continue to live on a myth. So the myth of father is relative to daughter, because when you don't have a father as a daughter, you have to put on mask. You know, because you don't get the validation from your father. When you don't have a father, you put on mask as a daughter. Now, you do this to get by. But you've gotten by, and you've got to get rid of the myth in order to get on your righteous path. So these are the things that I talk about when I talk about the myth of father. And when you think about who's feeding your seed, when you're not around to feed your seed, who is feeding your seed? I don't know. So I thought about all these things, and I wanted to give honor where honor is due, because, you know, when spirit calls you to do things, I just wanted to make sure that I understood um, relative information. So the myth of father is constructed in the fabric of the oppressor. And once you can somehow unlearn, because your daughters need to take off their mask, and so do your sons. You know, some of, and I dare not say this, but some of, you know, I've been looking at Instagram lately, and there are so many men dressed like women for comedy. Now, granted, it's funny, and I have no judgment, because I think judgment is completely for fools. But I think that there's no knowledge. What there's something that I say when I ask public usefulness. There's so many men on these social medias dressed up like women, and I want to ask them, what is the public usefulness for this? It is entertaining. It is entertaining. But what is the public usefulness for this? There's so many. You would think, so I wanted to ask that question of black men, absent fathers. What do you think about your absentee? Because it's reflecting on social media. Anyway, yeah, so that was it, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. I again wanted to give honor where honor is due, and I just wanted to make sense of understanding information, because I want to get all the useless information out of my head. And that basically means, the myth of father and the absentee father. I wanted to tout some stats, because in 1960 the single mother rate was about 23%. And even then, that was high. The single black mother rate was about 23%. And even then, that was high. So, but now it's like 70%. And nobody is talking about it. We talk about, black women being the least married, but in terms of the black family, there are 70% of black kids being either raised by another man and or in a household with no man. I thought that was interesting. Now, how true that is, you don't know, because again, this is information that is put out through a lot of manipulative ideas, and we won't go there. But again, the myth of the father is the rhythm and flow of your household, and what does that mean for the children when the mother is in a myth and when the father is in a myth? Where does that leave the children? Because aren't they the future? I think so. So that's me. That's me and my epiphany. How cute is that? I want to make sure I get it all out. Mm. Yeah. So thank you. I wanted to talk about that. Thank you.